Hello again. As we explore further the concept of identity, I would like to address today a special personality theory. It's special because it has a spiritual aspect, which you don't really find in many personality theories, which tend to only categorize and box people into certain limits. Last time we discussed a theory by Carl Jung about the processes, how one perceives information and how one uses this information to make decisions. But today this theory has a different aspect. It has a virtue and a holy idea aspect to it. And at the same time, it explains the ego behavior. So it links the higher self and the ego at the same time, which is very special. And in a way, it helps a person also find out about why they have certain motivations in life, why they take a certain path, why they like certain things, and why they act and think and feel in certain ways. This theory is called the Enneagram. Its origins date back to the 1960s. And the founder of the Enneagram did a lot of research, dating back to antiquity, 4,000 years ago almost, in which he gathered a lot of ideas from mystical sources about his theory. And when he put it together, even though when you read about the theory, you can see things that are similar to mystical practices in different religions, and even before, thinking back to Pythagoras, there are certain aspects of it. But the theory that we see now is actually a cohesion of all these ideas, which led to the Enneagram personality theory. Now, the theory itself says that all people lie within 9 personality types. Now, this seems like it is limiting in that sense, but the theory is much more expanded into that we all have all the types within us, as we talked about with Carl Jung. We have all the functions, the cognitive functions within us, but we have preferences. And this theory also deals with this, that we have a dominant type. At the same time, there's aspects of us that are present in other types. The easiest way to explain is through a diagram, which you can see. Basically, we have the 9 types are put in this formation because each of the types tends to have a growth point, which the type becomes similar to another type, and has a disintegration point, which takes the type into the behaviors of another type. Now, all of the 9 types are divided into 3 aspects of a human behavior, which we have talked about a lot within the psyche, which are the doing, or they call it will, here, or soul. The doing aspect, the behavior, the feeling, and the thinking. The types that focus mainly on doing are 3, type 8, type 9, and type 1. The ones who focus more on feeling are type 2, type 3, and type 4. And the ones who focus more on thinking are type 5, type 6, and type 7. And even though, as I said before, the Enneagram theory says that we all have a form of tri-type, meaning that we have a dominant type in one category, for example, doing, but at the same time, we tend to use another type in the feeling category and in the thinking category. Obviously, because a person is holistic in a sense that we all use these 3 categories, but we have more motivation in one dominant type. Now, I want to go back to the origins of the theory. The theory says that every person has a holy idea, which basically means a unity of being, which represents the higher self of the person. And this holy idea, when something happens, negative happens, the holy idea becomes an ego fixation, where the ego tries to, as we said before, tries to survive. So it comes out with these strategies in order to deal with the situation. It's usually a short-term strategy, but because the ego tends to insist on doing it again and again, even though it's not working, it becomes a fixation. And because of this fixation, the person continuously tries to go back to the holy idea, to the unity of being, to the higher self. And sometimes it doesn't work if the person doesn't become aware, but when the person becomes aware and is aware of the higher self, becomes aware of the holy idea, and each type has a specific holy idea and how it becomes an ego fixation, according to the theory. And also, the theory talks about This is the thinking aspect of the theory. And the feeling aspect of theory says that each type has a virtue of the higher self, which is a state of being when the person is being who he or she is. And also if something negative happens and ego fixation comes in, this virtue becomes a passion. And this passion, and obviously it means a passion in a different way than what we use in general terms. But the theory calls this passion in the sense that the person becomes really attached to this feeling and keeps on wanting to get back to the virtue he or she thinks that they have lost from the higher self. Obviously, when a person becomes aware, they regain or recall what is their virtue. The importance of the theory is that we know, if we know our type, we are able to become more aware of what is our holy idea or our dominant type, or more aware of knowing what is our holy idea and our virtue. And we can use this to help us become more aware, become aware of what is the aim of our higher self, of our unity of being, of who we are, as who we really are, and what we actually is saying is what is present, or are we just seemingly saying what the ego wants us to see, which is a distorted perspective. Now, I will not explain each type on its own because you're going to find many sites and books about this, the Enneagram theory. And I will link you to the site below of the Enneagram Institute, which is this information came from. And but now I will briefly just mention what are the holy ideas, passions, virtues, and ego fixation of each type. And if you don't want to know further, please do search about this, and I've also linked you to some videos about the theory itself. It's a really, intricate, multidimensional theory, which needs a lot of videos to explain. But this is just a general idea of seeing the importance of this particular theory. Let's start with the holy ideas. Type 1, holy perfection. 2, holy will and holy freedom. 3, holy law, holy hope. 4, holy origin. 5, omniscience and transparency. 6, faith. 7, wisdom and plan. 8, truth. 9, love. Ego fixations that happen from these holy ideas are 1, resentment. 2, flattery. 3, vanity. 4, melancholy. 5, stinginess. 6, cowardice. 7, planning. 8, vengeance. 9, indolence. Now, the virtues of the types. Type 1, serenity. 2, humility. 3, truthfulness. 4, equanimity. 5, non-attachment. 6, courage. 7, sobriety. 8, innocence. 9, action. The passions that come from disintegration of the virtues are type 1, anger. 2, pride. 3, deceit. 4, envy. 5, avarice. 6, fear. 7, gluttony. 8, lust. 9, sloth. As you can see, some of them are really similar to the deadly 7 sins that you might find in a certain religion. But really, the sins themselves tend to, I think, date back further than what people might think as Christianity. And somehow the history of the Enneagram says that along the way, 2 of these 9 passions, so to speak, were lost and then became the 7 deadly sins. In any case, when you read the theory, the passions themselves make sense why they are so and named as such. And I would really encourage you to go further into the Enneagram. It is very, very helpful, especially when it's linked to Carl Jung's theory, because then you would see even a person of the same type of Carl Jung's theory or tends to have differences because they might be a different Enneagram type. And this will help the person know why they have chosen some things in life and why they keep on focusing in certain areas and why their motivations are fixated or some motivations are important to them more than other motivations. As you can see, we had a very long series of identity videos, and it was important for me to put them within the concept of identity, because it is important to understand that personality or the ego and its actions is not just identity. Identity is the whole psyche, it is a whole being. And because it is a whole being, everything from values and archetypes and persona and higher self and how we perceive and use the information we perceive in the world and our motivations are all us as people. And I hope that this series will help you further on your journey of awareness. And until next time, with a new topic, take care. Bye.